All right, today I want to talk about what I believe is the single most important geopolitical question right now. Is the United States actually going to launch a ground invasion of Iran?
And here's the thing, whether or not this war can be won might not even be the point.
The point is that this war, win or lose, could bury the old world order for good. And that might just be what certain people want. Stick with me. I'm going to walk you through the entire chain of logic, step by step. Let's start with the military picture. Pull up a map of Iran, and you'll see right away why this country is a fortress. Coming from the west, the Iraq border, the most obvious route in, you immediately hit the Zagros Mountains. They run over 1,000 kilometers from north to south, perfect guerrilla terrain. Iranian fighters disappear into the mountains, launch drones and missiles, and vanish before you can respond. From the east through Pakistan, it is vast open desert with supply lines stretched impossibly long, hundreds of miles from Tehran. From the south, a Persian Gulf landing puts you on a narrow coastline backed by more mountains, still far from any strategic objective. The geography alone makes this an invasion from hell. Now look at the numbers. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq with a population of 90 million. How many U.S. troops are currently in the Middle East? About 50,000. The standard counterinsurgency ratio is 20 soldiers per 1,000 civilians. Do the math. Just maintaining order in an occupied Iran would take 1.8 million troops. That is not even counting the combat forces needed for the actual fighting. The entire U.S. active duty military is only 1.3 million. The numbers simply don't add up. But here is where it gets interesting. There are real signs that a ground invasion is actually being prepared. First, reservists have received mobilization letters telling them to prepare for deployment. Second, someone placed a $200,000 bet on Polymarket that an invasion will happen. A bet that would pay out over $1 million. People who make those kinds of bets usually have inside information. Third, and this one sounds funny, but it is real, pizza delivery orders to the Pentagon have spiked. Laugh all you want, but historically, every time the Pentagon is pulling all-nighters on military planning, pizza orders go through the roof. Put these signals together, and something is clearly brewing. Okay, so let's say the invasion actually happens. What comes next? Let's talk about Iran's side first. How long has this country been preparing for exactly this scenario? Not 5 years, not 10 years, 25 years. They've built massive underground bases deep in the mountains, stocked with missiles, drones, and weapon systems specifically designed to destroy tanks, helicopters, and supply convoys. And here is the thing. During the weeks of airstrikes that have already happened, Iran only activated 1 set of underground facilities. 1. How many more are there? Nobody knows. The Americans would advance at first. CNN would report, "We're winning. We've taken this area." For a week or two, it would look good, but then reality kicks in. The terrain grinds the advance to a halt. Supply lines get cut. Drones start hitting American convoys. Every helicopter is a target. Every fuel tanker is a target. Every supply ship in the Gulf is a target. Sound familiar? It should. Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq after the first wave. America is extraordinarily good at throwing the first punch. The whole world acknowledges that, but the grinding fight that comes after, that is where it falls apart every single time. The Iranians have studied this for a quarter century. They've dissected Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan inside out and built their entire defense doctrine around America's inability to sustain a long fight. All right, that is the military side. But here is what I need you to understand. The military might not even be the scariest part. The scariest part is the economics. On, say, ground war escalates. What does Iran do with the Strait of Hormuz? They mine it. They hit tankers. They simultaneously strike oil infrastructure in Gulf states. Their goal is to push oil to $200 a barrel. It is around $100. Now, they want to double it. But that is not the whole story. Most people think the Strait of Hormuz only carries oil and natural gas. It doesn't, not even close. Phosphates, ammonia, sulfur, urea. These are the basic ingredients of fertilizer. Cut off fertilizer, and farmers around the world can't grow food properly. This isn't about expensive gas. This is about whether people can eat. And there is something else that genuinely surprised me when I first researched this. Helium and sulfuric acid also transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Both are critical materials for semiconductor manufacturing. Semiconductors power what? Your phone, your computer, AI. If that supply is disrupted, global chip production slows down. And what is propping up the entire US stock market right now? AI. If AI hits a wall, you know what happens next? JP Morgan has already warned that a prolonged closure of the strait could outpace the drawdown rate of global strategic petroleum reserves. That is not some conspiracy blogger talking. That is one of the largest banks in the world. So add it all up, $200 oil, food shortages, semiconductor disruption. And what you get is a recession. It is a depression, a global one. Now, let me take you one layer deeper. This is the layer most people haven't thought about, but once you see it, everything clicks into place. Have you heard of the petrodollar system? Here is the short version. Starting in 1973, all oil in the world has been bought and sold in US dollars. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states only accept dollars in exchange. America protects them because everyone needs oil. Everyone needs dollars. That creates a permanent global demand for the US currency. And that is how America keeps its $39 trillion national debt running. Put simply, as long as the world needs dollars to buy oil, America can keep borrowing and keep the lights on. So who is buying US treasuries? Japan, China, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, India, Europe, basically Asia plus Europe. And where does Asia and Europe's oil come from? The Middle East. The very place that is getting bombed right now. See? The problem. If the Gulf collapses, if Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar are destabilized, if the petrodollar infrastructure is shattered, then Japan, China, South Korea, and Europe have no reason to keep trusting this system. They start moving away from the dollar. They start dumping US treasuries. The dollar depreciates, interest rates spike, stock markets crash. This isn't a minor issue. This is the financial bedrock of the American empire being ripped out from underneath it. At this point, most people would say, so this war is unwinnable, it would destroy America. Trump is an idiot. But I want you to think about it from a different angle. Before making any move on Iran, Trump has been doing something very systematic. Watch carefully. He has taken Venezuela, the world's largest proven oil reserves. He has threatened Canada, pulling Canadian energy into the American orbit. He is going after Greenland's minerals. He is pressuring Mexico. He is eyeing control of the Panama Canal. Observers have read this series of moves as the Fortress North America strategy, establishing absolute dominance over resources and security in the Western Hemisphere. Connect the dots, and the picture is crystal clear. He is building a fortress.
North America has everything: oil, food, freshwater, minerals, manufacturing potential, and two oceans as moats.
Once the fortress is built, America doesn't need the Middle East anymore, doesn't need troops stationed in the Gulf, doesn't need to spend trillions playing global cop. This is a strategic contraction from global empire to regional fortress. The logic holds, and Trump didn't invent it. Putin is already doing something similar. Look at Russia. It fought a war in Ukraine that the whole world said it was losing. But look at the data. Russian industrial output is up. Military production has expanded massively. Drones went from being imported from Iran to being domestically produced at over 1 million units per year. Russia restructured its economy into a war economy. The cost has been enormous, but the system is transforming. There is a Russian geopolitical thinker named Alexander Dugin who wrote a book in 1997 called Foundations of Geopolitics. His core argument is simple. The Western order, built on consumerism and individualism, will eventually collapse on its own because it has no soul.
His advice to Russia: don't try to save it. Let it fall. Just make sure you're still standing when it does.
Putin has followed that playbook, and I believe Trump is operating on similar logic. This is why I say whether the war can be won is beside the point. Think about it. What if Trump's real objective isn't conquering Iran, but detonating the Middle East? What happens when the Middle East detonates? The Strait of Hormuz shuts down. Oil prices explode. The petrodollar system cracks. Who gets hurt the most? Europe, Japan, China, South Korea. The economy is dependent on Middle Eastern oil. Who gets hurt the least? North America. Because North America has its own oil, American shale, plus the newly acquired Venezuelan reserves, plus Canadian oil sands. In other words, detonating the Middle East means the old order collapses. Global dependence on Middle Eastern energy becomes a massive liability, and North America, self-sufficient in resources, becomes the safe haven. Where does the world's capital, talent, and supply chains flee to? Wherever it is safe, they flee to North America. So this war, even if American troops get bloodied in Iran, could still achieve its strategic objective. The objective isn't capturing Tehran. The objective is to knock out the foundations of the old order and let Fortress North America be the only structure left standing in the rubble. I know some of you might think this explanation sounds too conspiratorial. Honestly, I'm not even sure Trump himself has thought it through this clearly. Maybe there is Israeli pressure at play. Maybe the military-industrial complex is driving this. Maybe it is domestic politics, real-world decision. Making is never a perfect blueprint. But regardless of the motive, the objective outcome points in the same direction. Step back and look at the whole board. The Russia-Ukraine war has been going on for years now. Europe's security architecture is never going back to what it was. If the Iran war erupts, the Middle East energy order is never going back either. The petrodollar is shaken. Global supply chains are fractured. America itself is pivoting toward Fortress North America. Russia has already become a war economy. China is racing to achieve industrial upgrades and energy independence. Europe is being forced to rearm. Every major power is moving in its own direction. Nobody is maintaining the unified global order anymore. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, George H.W. Bush declared a new world order. From that moment on, the world was bound together in one system, the dollar as the world's currency, America as the world's police, free trade. Globalization, free capital flows. That system ruled for over 30 years. But look around now. Is it still here? The Russia-Ukraine war shattered Europe's security dependence. The Iran war is shattering the Middle East's energy order. Trump himself is pulling America off the global policeman pedestal. The petrodollar is wobbling. Free trade has become tariff wars. Supply chains are breaking apart. Every single pillar is being dismantled. What replaces it? A contest between large regional blocs. Fortress North America, Russia's Eurasian landmass, China's industrial system, Europe struggling for autonomy. Each bloc with its own resources, its own rules, its own security architecture. No more universal rulebook. No more world police. No more one currency everyone has to use. We are watching the end of an era in real time. But in the middle of this tectonic shift, who pays the highest price? It is the mother standing in a bread line on a Tehran street. It is the patient in a Baghdad or Beirut hospital waiting for medicine that never comes. It is the farmer in Africa or South Asia facing crop failure because the fertilizer supply was cut off. It is every ordinary person ground under the wheels of great power competition. A doubling of oil prices is a line on a chart to Wall Street. To a Cairo slum, it is whether a child eats tonight. A spike in food prices is a bargaining chip to a politician. To a Yemeni refugee, it is the difference between life and death. The great powers are playing chess. Each player has their own calculations. But the board is paved with human lives. They are not the players. They are the board. All right. That is it for today.
If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.